The Atheist Debates Patreon Project presents a debate between Matt Dillahunty and Mark, a Satanist, on Is Religion a Good Thing? So this is actually a rather short debate, and when it was over, I actually kind of struggled with whether or not I should bother posting it. And I thought about what happened, and I realized that there are still good lessons to be learned from this, and it allows me to make some points about debates and debate structure and the mindset involved that I think might be beneficial. So go ahead and watch this debate. It's relatively short compared to most of my other debates, and I'll be back at the end to talk about what I really loved about this debate that makes it very different from most of the other ones I've done.
Give a big round of applause to Mark from the Satanic Temple.
Thank you. Is this on? All right. So yeah, first I want to say thank you to Jim and to Matt for having me here. I've been a huge fan of Matt's for years. So I think the point of our discussion is going to come down to a minor point. But I also need to clarify first off that though I'm a member of the Satanic Temple, these are my views, and this is not an official stance of the Satanic Temple. I am not our spokesman. That said, do I jump right into it? So the big point, and something in the one exchange I've had with Matt in the past, was the definition is very important, and we need to agree on our definition of religion in order to even have this discussion. So I've written down a description that I'm going to read off, which is that religion is a structure of codified ethics which provides an affirmative description of its adherents, a community based on those ethics, and an understanding that those ethics are deeply held, and that those are a description of the adherent, not the, what's the word I'm looking for here? It is not any specific religion that I'm saying is good. I'm not saying Satanism is better than Christianity, or honestly, I think Christianity is a little evil, but that's beside the point. Religion is often just a scapegoat, and it's often grouped with theism, which is not necessarily an aspect of religion. To that end, as a description and as a affirmation of character, religion is definitely a good thing. And that's about all I got for an opening.
Matt will definitely talk longer.
Yes, I'm sure.
You ready for the hum that we can't get rid of? Test 1, 2, 3. Hey, it's magic. How you doing? Thank you guys so much for having me off. Like Jim mentioned, I wasn't actually doing a magic show. That's next week. I was at a magic convention in Louisville, Kentucky. It's the joint IBM SAM convention. Every 4 to 6 years or so, the two major organizations, International Brotherhood of Magicians and Society of American Magicians, do a joint convention, which isn't joint like the other joint. But so I've got magic on my mind, and I won't cheat by doing a trick during the debate. But there is a trick that I do, which I'll describe at the end, which may kind of illustrate my point. I think I could get a technical win by saying religion isn't a thing, or it's not one thing. So if you just look at the topic, is religion a good thing? Well, religion is a classification under which many things reside. There's many different religions. The definition that Mark gave, basically a strongly held system of shared ethics, doesn't even make the top 2 if you Google what's the definition of religion. That doesn't mean that he's wrong. I pointed out many times that words, I'm not a prescriptivist. Words don't have intrinsic meaning, they have usage, and usage changes. And there may come a day when, if enough people climb on board to Mark's usage or his preferred usage, that it becomes the de facto, this is what religion is. But by and large in society, that is not how religion is viewed. It's not how it's been viewed traditionally. If you looked up the definitions now, the first one is about belief in a God, particularly a personal God. I wouldn't have held him to that. The second one is about a prescriptive system of faith and worship, which is closer. But what is religion? I mean, if we're just going to use, oh, well, you don't want to go so far, and I appreciate the fact that he didn't go so far as to say, you know, hey, my drinking club is my religion. Because when you get that far, I don't think you've actually convinced anybody, and I don't think you're actually doing anything useful that is expanding the word. But I don't think we get to throw out the most common usage of the word religion. And I'm looking forward to the discussion because we'll agree. I think we're going to find out that we disagree on very fine points within that. But in the broader section, the other issue is what makes something good? Is Christianity good? Is Scientology good? Well, these are packages of ideas. Certainly there's good and bad in all of it. What makes a human being good? If I just say, you know, Jason's a good person, sorry to pick on you, does that mean he's never done anything wrong? Am I doing kind of like an aggregate assessment that he's more good than evil? Are we approximating? Well, you could make a case that almost anything is good. And what I tend to hear when we have these discussions about whether or not religion's a good thing is, well, it builds communities. I'm all in favor of that, provided it's the right kind of community, provided it's not an insular, divisive community where we're right and can't be questioned, and we are now opposed to everybody else who has a different type of community. You can encourage people to do good things for all sorts of justifications. And I apologize in advance. This is just an example for this. I promise you I'm not making light of medical diagnoses. But I know people who would say that cancer is a good thing. Because when they were diagnosed, it fundamentally changed how they viewed their life. And this changed how they decided to interact with other people. And it helped them repair relationships. It helped them discover what was most important. And none of that would have happened had they not got cancer. It's fundamentally broad, incredible good, a good that will most likely, especially in terminal diagnoses, last in the rest of their life and build up relations within their family. Even knowing that that's good, is that enough to say that cancer is a good thing? I don't think so. I don't think we'd by and large just generally say, oh yeah, cancer, that's a good thing. And the cancer is just one disease. Cancer would be analogous to Christianity. If cancer gives somebody purpose and meaning and more value to their life, that doesn't in and of itself make it a good thing, and it certainly doesn't make disease a good thing. You can't get from an individual's personal experience with something of feeling better about their lives to, therefore, disease is good. There are other definitions of religion that I think get us to a curious little concern, and that is the legal definition that we use in the United States, particularly for tax-exempt status, particularly when it comes to church-state separation, or as my friend Amanda Knief prefers, we mention the separation of religion and government. I'm in favor of that slight change in language, but I'll use both until it becomes common, because that's what you have to do. When you change the way you talk about something, you've got to acknowledge both until one wins out. So what is it about a religion that would make someone want their particular collection of ethical beliefs or views about the supernatural or the afterlife? What is it about that word religion that would make someone want their system to qualify for that label? By and large, it's about the tax-exempt status. There's a Buddhist temple in Austin. They fought like hell to be considered a religion. Most Buddhists I won't say most Buddhists because I don't have data. Most Buddhists I've interacted with and most of the things I've read, they tend to prefer to view it as a philosophy and not as a religion. But when it comes to tax-exempt status, they're very happy to go get that tax-exempt status. And they fought for it. The atheist community of Austin fought for a tax-exempt status too, but we had a daughter corporation that was a library. So it's not a 501c3 religious, it's a 501c3 educational, which is different. Now, I am completely opposed to a de facto tax-exempt status on the basis of religion. I think it needs to go away. I think if you want a tax-exempt status, we're a religion isn't good enough. You need to show that you're doing something that's actually in the public good to offset that. And you should have to open your books to the public. And you shouldn't get to have your cake and eat it too, as Ken Ham is desperately trying to do and evidently succeeding at here in the wonderful state of Kentucky. Imagine for a minute that the classical religions vanished. Would anybody be trying to get their particular collection of ideas labeled religion? Would the Buddhists be saying, oh, we want a religious tax exemption? Would we even have a religious tax exemption if it weren't for the privileged status that religions have had since our country was founded? And not to pick on my Satanist friends, but would they care if they were identified as a religion? They certainly wouldn't be called Satanists. That's kind of a responsive thing to Christianity, which we've imagined doesn't exist. You can motivate people with a lie. And you can motivate people with chance. There's a magic trick that I do in some of my close-up sets. There's 6 cards that I set on a table, and they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's a die. And on the back of these cards are the instructions for how I'm supposed to treat the audience for the show. And I have someone roll the die, and they can roll it many times to show that it's going to come up with random numbers, that I'm not in control of it. They can stop whenever they want. And let's say they roll a 3. They reach down and they pick up the number 3, and on the back of the number 3 it says, be nice. And then I turn over all the other cards and it says, kill. Now, you can certainly say, man, that's a good system there to motivate Matt to do good because you're only looking at the result. But you're ignoring all the other possibilities there. The only thing about it is it's a good trick, but it's not a good system. We wouldn't say, oh, this is a good way to go about making decisions. And if you can motivate people to do things without religion, the entire Good Without God campaigns, pointing out that everything that you want to say about, oh, religion has encouraged people to do this, religion has encouraged people to do that. Yes. But couldn't those people be motivated with an honest, accurate encouragement? Something, hey, why should I be nice to other people? I don't know, maybe because you share space with them? Oh, why should I donate to help the homeless? I don't know, maybe because of John Rawls' veil of ignorance, where you design the system that you're going to live in without knowing who you're going to be in that system. Would you design a system where there are homeless people who are desperately in need of funds if you knew that you could be one of them? Getting people motivated to take action does not require religion, and it certainly doesn't require religion to get good action. There's a quote, or a partial quote, from Steven Weinberg that says, without religion, good people would do good things and bad people would do bad things, but it takes something very much like religion to get good people to do bad things. That is my problem, and it's why I cannot possibly call religion a good thing, even if you can point out a religion that is almost universally agreed to be good. Secular humanism gets classified as a religion for the purposes of tax status. I wouldn't call it that. Certainly I don't have a problem with that. I'm a secular humanist. But that's not enough, even if we all agree that it should be a religion, to say that religions are a good thing. And redefining religion to fit this narrow thing of shared ethics, isn't it possible to have a shared system of ethics with a group of people without any need for the religion label? So I don't think we're there yet on the redefinition. Thanks.
Now we're going to give each one of them a chance to ask each other questions. We'll start with Matt if you would like to ask Mark some questions based on some opening comments. We'll let you ask a few questions and we'll turn it over to Mark after that.
I think I heard it. Oh, it's the echo's coming from these mics.
Oh.
All right. I'm assuming everybody came here. One of the things I didn't do was make a list of questions because honestly I was a little baffled. Hey, what are we going to talk about? Because I wouldn't have expected great disagreement. Now that I know that it begins with a redefinition of religion, I guess the first question is, How much do you think we disagree and where?
I think mainly we disagree on the point of, trying to verbalize that, hold on. How to classify religion.
So what,
Right.
the
So, like,
biggest point is what qualifies as a religion?
Right, so as you said, secular humanism, right? In your opening statement, you had said, you had characterized that religion is intrinsically dishonest by stating that religion isn't needed and instead you could use an honest method. So is secular
I didn't
humanism...
say that religion was dishonest.
Right, you didn't...
I implied
right,
it.
you implied that. So would you say that secular humanism is, by default, because it's a religion, not...
I don't count secular
dishonest.
humanism as a religion. For tax purposes, because, and this is about the tax structure that we have. If it weren't for the fact that
That's fair.
this particular ideology's got this privileged status, nobody else would be like, hey, what about us? We have these views about, life too.
Right.
So I want the tax exempt thing to go away. Let me ask you this then. If we removed the de facto 501c3 status for religion, would you care if Satanism or secular humanism was classified as a religion by anybody?
If we removed the social perception of religion, not just the tax exempt status, but the view that as an atheist, my values are not as deeply held as a Christian's, then I wouldn't care. But my values are deeply held.
So what is it about deeply held values that makes it need the religion label?
It's the perception that my values are lesser because I'm an atheist.
Well, I'm an atheist,
And
I'm not a part of any religion and don't feel a need. Now, granted, I might be the exception. I don't understand why you couldn't just say, and actually, I suppose there's a question of whether or not my values are as deeply held as, for example, a Christian. Because one of the aspects of something being deeply held is that it seems to become like almost unquestionable. It's almost dogmatic, and I'm vehemently opposed to dogma.
I agree with that. Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
I guess the thing is, we have philosophical schools of thought, and there are certainly people who have deeply held views on epistemology. Stop that. And things like that. How, apart from the fact that it's not ethics, is that the key, that it needs to be, religion can't be anything unless it includes ethics?
I don't think necessarily. I think ethics are a key part of any religion, though.
So when we put together the package of this is a religion, ethics is one key component. If there's no ethics involved, it's not a religion.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm not aware of any religion that defines itself by what it isn't, only what it values.
Well, so now we've shifted to defining by what it isn't. I'm concerned about this issue of ethics because certainly there are people who have deeply held ethical views that don't have any use for calling it religion.
Absolutely. For the longest time, I thought I didn't.
So what is it that we get out of taking this package? Here's package A of ethical views that are deeply held, and package B. And package B we start calling religion, flying in the face of the traditional usage of the term, because we're not necessarily including supernatural or gods or anything.
Right.
What is, I guess I'm having difficulty understanding, what does this get
Okay.
that
so
doesn't exist in the other, that's of value?
When I said I was an atheist, or when I said I was a Satanist, you knew right off kind of what my beliefs are, right?
Okay.
You had a perception of what I would be like, what I might think like, based on that, because it is a, prescriptive statement of who I am.
Descriptive, but yeah,
Yes,
I think so.
sorry, yes.
I'm not sure.
That's probably correct.
But I could say I'm a secular humanist
Right.
and accomplish the same thing
Yeah.
without ever wanting secular humanism to be viewed as a religion. There's something about the traditional usage of religion where, the word religion, what is it because these other groups have had this privileged status, and you want to be pulled up to that privileged, respected status with your beliefs?
Yeah, I don't want to pull people down. Let's elevate everyone.
Except that I think I'd argue that it's not actually elevation, that the privileged, respected status that they have isn't something that's deserved. It's not because it's good. And really, you could also argue that you're just dragging yourself down to their level. Like, I've had conversations with people, and there's this fallacy, the Tukok fallacy, which is, you do it too.
Right.
And so when I point out problems in their religion, their doctrines, they say, oh, well, these other religions have these things too, as if the fact that they're also wrong or evil.
That's fair, yeah.
I have no desire to get down to their level, but if you're going to their level, and their level as an aggregate, we would agree is not good.
Right.
So here's all these religions, excluding yours, and I think we would agree that, generally speaking, neither of us would consider them good.
Right.
And whether you view their level as up or down, you're trying to include yours in that group of things that aren't good.
Yes. I guess. That's a good point.
My take on this, and I guess it'll be your time to ask questions and stuff after that, is I love it when a pejorative label gets picked up by the people who have been diminished by it. Gay, liberal, whatever, and they pick it up and they're like, yes, we're going to go and run with it. If you have the momentum to flip the script like that, to take it and own it, I think that's a good thing, turning a bad thing into a good thing. I personally don't see what there is of value that is good within religion that would make me want to associate it. Even if we started like let's throw Satanism in and we'll say that it's good, and we'll throw secular humanism in and say, it's like we're trying to pour white paint into a bucket of black paint to get white. Why not just sit over here and say, there should be no special treatment for religion. Religions generally haven't been good things, even if they motivate this. They shouldn't be getting special privileged positions with regard to taxes. And what we're talking about over here are things that are actually good, things that are actually promoting equality. We don't need the religion label for it. We call it secular humanism, we call it Satanism, we call it whatever, and we don't need or want the religion label. Why wouldn't that be the preferred path?
I think that would be the preferred path, but we are living in a world where that path is not open.
Do Satanists have feedback loops built right into it? Because every time
I must. I think it's because I'm a bassist.
maybe. I guess it's your turn for whatever questions you had.
I've just been kind of going back and forth, actually. God, I had no questions.
Well, I mean,
prepared,
if you don't, we can open it up to them as well. But I don't know that I think in general.
I think, like, for a large part, we agree. And now I'm rethinking my position of a lot, actually. But
Which is
I knew coming here that
which is completely fair. And
Yeah.
why would you do this? And granted, don't expect this in most debates. But we both came here in the interest of, let's figure out where we agree or disagree and why.
Yeah.
I wish more debates happened like this. So that's pretty much the end of the debate. I'm curious to hear what people think about this, because I know that there are people who are going to be, oh my gosh, that was a dog stomping. You completely mauled him and you won that debate and it was just so, one-sided and everything else. I don't look at debates in terms of winning and losing, as if there's an opponent for me to beat. And I think that this is one of those debates where the point is more clearly made than others. Because one of the first things that we did was to define our terms and to have a discussion about those terms. And then we had a conversation. Now, yes, it was short, it was somewhat one-sided, but I would argue that this is what you would expect when there are two people who are honestly engaging in a discussion, who are willing to change their mind based on good argument or evidence. And we don't see enough of this. I've been trying to change the structure of my debates for years, because the first few debates I did, it was, opening statement, reversed rebuttal, first rebuttal, second rebuttal, second rebuttal. That seemed to be the primary structure to debates. And what I'd much rather do is have an opening statement followed by a conversation and then Q&A. Now, I didn't include all the Q&A with the audience, or any of it actually, because the audience was primarily focused on their curiosity about Satanism, what it means to identify as a Satanist. There was loads of confusion despite being an almost exclusively atheist audience. The takeaways from this debate, for me, are that we're making progress in changing the way things are discussed. Now, yes, essentially, you had two atheists, one of whom had this idea that religion was a good thing, and one who didn't, and they discussed it, and they came out agreeing. That's nice. I would have also been happy to had my mind changed if there was a compelling case that religion on the whole was a good thing. My opening statement, I think, covered most of the ground. There's no reason for me to do a detailed review of this debate. The purpose for posting is to show that it is possible. And I know right away people are going to say, well, yes, it's possible if you have a reasonable non-believer there with you and you're discussing some fine point, but you're never going to see anything like this in a debate between, let's say, you and a theist. Well, that may be the case, because a lot of people will show up at a debate and their mindset going in is, I have this position and I must defend it at all cost. And what this does is it puts them on an extreme defensive mode, such that you can ask a question and they're so focused on, oh my gosh, where's the trap in that question? Where's this going to lead me? That they can't give you a straight answer. And in their defensiveness, they're going to ask questions that are poisonous, that are, not quite to the when did you stop beating your wife thing, where the answer, almost any answer potentially gets you in trouble. But they want to push a yes or no answer to something where we haven't really defined terms, and a yes or no may not be appropriate. So the things that I'd like people to recognize about this is, number one, I'd like to thank Mark and the organizers for setting this up. I'd never debated a Satanist before. I'll talk more about that. I'm going to do a video a little later about Satanists. It won't be an in-depth look into Satanism, but it relates to this debate and the questions that came up surrounding it. So I was happy to do that. I was happy to engage on a topic that isn't one of the ones we do most commonly. I was happy that we were able to actually have a conversation, and that once we got our terms defined and we're allowed to kind of frame our views on these sorts of things, we either came to agreement or just acknowledged that we couldn't say in any broad sense that religion is a good thing. And I think there's a strong case to be made, as we discussed in there, that maybe you wouldn't even want to be included under the banner of religion. Maybe if you've got something that's truly good, rather than try to reform something that we generally consider awful, you would just give it a new label and say, yes, that's the old bad stuff. This is, the new stuff, and it's good. I wish we had perhaps had more conversation prior to the debate, because we might have been able to, sort this out without even having a debate. But I'm glad it happened this way, specifically for the object lessons involved. Define your terms. Something Mark said in his opening statement that really set the tone for all of this. Once we're willing to acknowledge that perhaps we're using a non-standard definition, or perhaps we're talking about two different things, that allows us to focus on what we should be talking about. And so rather than talking past each other about religion being a good thing, he acknowledged his definition was non-standard, and then we went ahead and discussed it irrespective of the actual definition. In what sense could we say that this is a good thing? And I think the debate primarily speaks for itself on that front. But for you guys who are watching this, for people who are looking for tips on how to have better conversations, you're probably not going to be in that many formal debates, most of you. You're probably going to end up having conversations like this. It won't be at a table in front of an audience, most likely. But this sort of conversation that Mark and I had is exactly the kind of conversation that anybody can have with anyone else. And the key is define your terms. Go into it with an honest, open mind. Don't go into it, I must defend my position at all costs or the world will crumble. Try to get to a point of understanding. Try to make sure that you're not talking past each other. You know, oh, I say it's good for this reason. Yes, but it's bad for this reason over here. And you never talk about, let's say, the aggregate of, do we have good reason to call this good? You know, I'll refer back to the disease example that I used in the debate. On that note, I want to get other videos done, and please, by all means, leave your comments and thoughts. I'll ask you, you know, I know there are some people who might want to beat up on Mark and view this as if it were a waste of time or he didn't really have a position. I'm gonna discourage that, because anybody who's willing to put their views on trial in public, I think is deserving of respect for doing that. Anybody who's willing to openly acknowledge that they were wrong or change their mind, especially in public, I think that's the sort of thing that we should be encouraging. And, you know, like I said, I don't view debates as win-loss. So this to me was a relatively short, enjoyable discussion that got to agreement. And I don't see why we wouldn't be encouraging that sort of discussion every day, all day. This video is made possible by supporters of the Atheist Debates Patreon project. You can find more information and add your support at patreon.com/atheistdebates.